Welcome to Real Talk Daily, where real conversations about life, relationships, and emotions come alive. Real Talk Daily, real voices, real stories, every single day. Hey everyone, welcome back to Real Talk Daily. I hope you are doing well today because honestly, I think today's topic is something almost everybody can relate to, no matter where they live, what age they are, or what kind of lifestyle they have. We're talking about something that feels very common today, and that is being tired all the time. Not just sleepy, but really tired, mentally and physically.
Yes, and I think this is such an interesting topic because if you ask people how they are doing, so many people say exactly the same thing. They say, I'm tired or I'm exhausted, even when the day has barely started.
That is actually true, and I feel like a lot of people almost expect themselves to feel tired now. It has become normal somehow. You wake up tired, you work while feeling tired, and then at the end of the day, you are still tired.
Exactly. And I think many people are asking the same question today. Why does this happen so much? Why do people feel so exhausted all the time?
Wait, before we continue, I think that word is actually interesting. You said exhausted. I know many people listening probably understand the word tired, but what exactly does exhausted mean?
That is actually a very useful word to know. So, exhausted means extremely tired, much more tired than normal. For example, imagine you worked all day. Maybe you slept badly, maybe you had stress, and at the end of the day, you feel like you have no energy left at all. You could say, I'm exhausted.
Oh, wow. Then I think I say I'm tired too often when actually I should say I'm exhausted.
Honestly, many adults probably should.
But seriously, I think there are many reasons people feel exhausted today. For example, work culture feels very different now. Even after work, people are still checking emails, thinking about problems, replying to messages, or planning things for tomorrow.
Yes, and I think something else affects people too. Many people no longer have a healthy routine.
Okay, another useful word. What exactly do you mean by routine?
A routine is something you do regularly, usually every day. For example, maybe you wake up at 7, drink coffee, go to work, exercise in the evening, and sleep at 10. That is your daily routine.
Ah, okay. So when people say, I need a better routine, they mean they need better daily habits.
Exactly. And honestly, many people today have routines that are not very healthy. People stay awake too late, spend too much time on phones, skip meals, or sleep badly.
I feel attacked already.
Why? Does this sound familiar?
Very familiar. I always say, tonight I will sleep early, and somehow it becomes 1 in the morning, and I'm watching random videos that I did not even plan to watch.
Honestly, that happens to so many people.
But that brings up something interesting. I think phones are a big reason people feel tired today. Because even when we are supposed to be resting, our brains are still active.
Yes, and that is a really important point. Sometimes people think resting means lying in bed scrolling on social media for 3 hours, but mentally, your brain is still working.
Exactly. You are reading things, watching things, reacting emotionally to things. You are not physically moving, but your mind is still busy.
And I think that can make people feel emotionally drained.
Wait, drained is another interesting word.
Yes, drained means you feel like your energy is completely gone. Imagine your phone battery becoming very low. People also use drained to describe themselves emotionally or mentally.
Oh, that makes sense. So if somebody says, I feel drained, they mean they feel empty, tired, and maybe mentally exhausted too.
Exactly. And honestly, I hear people say this word a lot today.
Same. I think people are not just physically tired anymore. They feel mentally drained too.
Yes, because modern life asks for attention all the time. Messages, notifications, work, news, responsibilities. It feels like there is always something demanding your attention.
And I think stress also plays a huge role.
Definitely. Stress changes everything. Even if somebody sleeps enough hours, if they are stressed all the time, they can songs wake up feeling exhausted.
That is actually very true. I remember a time when I had so many things happening at once, and even after sleeping 8 hours, I still felt completely tired.
Because your brain never really relaxed.
Exactly. That is actually very true. I remember a time when I had so many things happening at once, and even after sleeping 8 hours, I still felt completely tired.
Because your brain never really relaxed.
Exactly.
And honestly, I think many people listening right now probably understand this feeling very well.
So maybe the real question is not just why are people tired, but what exactly is making modern life so exhausting?
Yes, because I think the answer is bigger than simply people need more sleep.
And in the next part, I think we should talk more about stress, work-life balance, and why so many people feel overwhelmed today.
Yes, because I think many people will relate to that part a lot.
Stay with us. So in the first part, we talked about why people feel so tired today and how it is not just physical tiredness, but also mental pressure that builds up during the day. And I think when you think about it more, there's something even deeper behind it.
Yes, I agree. Because it is not only about being busy. Many people are busy, but not everyone feels the same level of exhaustion. I think what really makes the difference is how much mental space those responsibilities take.
That is true. Some people can handle a busy day and still feel okay, but others feel completely drained even if their day was not that intense. And I think that is where this word overwhelmed becomes really important.
Exactly. When people say they feel overwhelmed, it is not just about having many tasks. It is about feeling like everything is happening at the same time and there is no clear way to manage it. It is like your mind is trying to process too many things at once.
I actually relate to that. Sometimes even small things like replying to messages, planning the next day, or thinking about work all start to stack up in my mind. And even if nothing is urgent, it still creates pressure.
Yes, and the problem is that people often don't notice it building up. It starts small, but over time it becomes this constant background stress that never really goes away.
That makes sense. And I think that connects to another important idea, which is balance. Because when people don't have balance in their daily life, everything starts to feel heavier than it should.
Yes, balance is very important. Not just work and rest balance, but also mental balance. For example, giving yourself time to disconnect, to not think about responsibilities for a while, or to simply do something without pressure.
That is actually harder than it sounds, though, because even when people have free time, they often fill it with their phone, social media, or things that still keep their mind active.
Exactly. So even rest time is not always real rest. Your body might be still, but your mind is still processing information, reacting to things, or staying active without pause.
And then people wake up the next day still feeling tired, even if they technically slept enough hours.
Yes, because sleep is only one part of recovery. The mind also needs real rest during the day, not just at night.
I think that is something a lot of people don't realize. They think, I slept, so I should feel fine. But they forget how much mental energy they spend during the day.
Yes, and I also think modern life makes it harder to slow down. There's always something happening, something to check, something to respond to.
That constant, always on feeling.
Exactly. And over time, that creates a kind of silent exhaustion that people don't always notice until they feel completely drained.
And maybe that is why so many people today feel tired, even when their life looks normal from the outside.
Yes, because the exhaustion is not always visible. It is internal. It is mental and emotional more than physical.
So if we look at everything together, it is not just about sleeping more or doing less. It is about understanding how our mind reacts to daily life and trying to create more balance in small ways.
Exactly. And I think in the next part, we can talk more about simple changes people can make in their daily routine to feel less overwhelmed and more balanced.
That sounds good, because I think people need realistic advice, not complicated solutions.
Yes, something practical that actually fits real life.
All right, let's continue. So in the last parts, we talked about why people feel so tired today, and how a lot of it is not just physical tiredness, but mental pressure, stress, and this constant feeling of being overwhelmed. And I think now the important question is, what can people actually do about it in real life without making it complicated?
Yes, because I think many people already understand the problem. They already know they feel tired or overwhelmed. But the harder part is figuring out what to change in daily life in a simple and realistic way.
I agree. And maybe the first thing people need to understand is that they don't need to fix everything at once. Sometimes people try to change their whole life in one day, and that itself becomes overwhelming.
Exactly. Change does not have to be big to be effective. Even small adjustments in your daily routine can make a big difference over time. For example, going to bed a little earlier, taking short breaks during the day, or simply spending less time on your phone before sleeping.
That makes sense. I also think people underestimate how much their routine affects their energy. If your routine is chaotic, your mind never really gets a chance to relax properly.
Yes, routine is very important. A healthy routine does not mean a perfect routine, but it means having some structure that helps your mind feel safe and balanced during the day.
I like that idea of balanced, because I think balance is not about doing everything perfectly, but about not pushing yourself too far in one direction all the time.
Exactly. Balance means knowing when to work and when to rest, knowing when to push yourself and when to slow down, and also accepting that not every day will feel the same.
That is actually a very important point, because many people feel like if they are not productive all the time, something is wrong. But in reality, being human means having different energy levels on different days.
Yes, and I think another important thing is learning how to disconnect mentally. Not just physically resting, but actually giving your mind space to breathe without constant input.
That is difficult, though, because even when people try to rest, they often turn to their phone or social media without thinking.
True, but even small moments of disconnection can help. For example, just sitting quietly for a few minutes, going for a short walk without your phone, or doing something simple without distractions.
I actually tried that recently, just going for a walk without my phone, and it felt very different. At first, it felt strange, but after a few minutes, my mind actually felt calmer.
Yes, because your brain is always processing information. When you remove that constant input, it slowly starts to relax.
So maybe the solution is not removing stress completely, but learning how to manage it in a healthier way.
Exactly. And also being kind to yourself. Because feeling tired, overwhelmed, or drained does not mean something is wrong with you. It just means your mind needs rest and balance.
I think that is a very important message, because many people feel guilty for being tired, like they should always be strong and productive.
Yes, but rest is not weakness. Rest is part of being healthy.
That is actually a good way to put it.
And if someone listening feels like they are constantly tired, maybe the first step is not to change everything, but just to observe their daily life and ask themselves small questions like, am I giving myself enough rest? Or is my routine helping me or exhausting me?
That is a good starting point. Small awareness can lead to big changes over time.
Yes, and I think that is a good place to end today's conversation.
Yeah, so if you are listening and you feel tired or overwhelmed sometimes, just know that you are not alone in that feeling. A lot of people are going through the same thing, even if it does not always look like it from the outside.
And little by little, things can get better with small changes and a more balanced approach to daily life.
Thank you for listening to Real Talk Daily. We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone.